Well, uh, once again, this franchise will make you rethink the way you eat. This is Food Inc. 2. It This is a review. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. This movie does not have audio description, although it was like a dirt cheap rental on Apple that I just happened to see, and I was like, oh, yeah, for that. Okay. Yeah, I'll rent that for $2. So yeah, I rented Food Inc. too because I was interested. I was intrigued. Um, I was kind of hoping it would have audio description, but it doesn't. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere where it would have audio description added onto it. If it's ever going to have audio description, feels like less people are talking about the sequel than about the movie. The first movie is very sensational because it got cameras behind the scenes and showed a lot of things. The second movie doesn't really do that. Anyway, I have a purple hat on backwards, baseball cap. I've also got black sunglasses. I'm wearing a Green Lantern shirt. So let's talk about Food Inc. 2. Should you watch it without audio description? Is it watchable? That's a tough question to answer because I don't actually know what I missed. So, do I feel like I got a message out of the movie? Absolutely. I feel like I got the message out of the movie, which happens a lot with documentaries because usually they have to bring in a lot of experts who talk a lot. So often audio description in documentaries is never what it is in a feature, like in a just a regular feature film of any kind, regardless of genre. Even something that's talky, like, you know, West Wingish, that has like a lot of dialogue, would still have more audio description than most documentaries. So this has some moments where they could have had audio description and then told us kind of what the footage was. But overall, its message is don't eat shit. Stop eating food that isn't food. And I eat a lot of ultra processed food. I'm fat. And I realize more and more that I need to eat less and less and cut it out of my diet. And hearing them break down sort of like what is food, what's processed food, and what's ultra processed food, and the difference between that sort of helped a little bit, because like, what is the difference between processed and ultra processed? Well, processed is taking food that, where you have, I think they use corn on the cob. Let's be an example. So food is corn on the cob, or corn, when you freshly take it off the cob, right? That's food. Processed food is taking that and then putting into a can, or and then maybe adding a little bit of salt to help preserve it. That's processed food. And then ultra processed food is a Dorito. So the basis behind that is food as it is, as it grows naturally in the wild. Whatever it is, however we make it, it's food. Processed food is something that theoretically you could do yourself because people do canning at home. So it is something that you could do. You could make stuff like applesauce at home. You could, there are a whole bunch of things that you can put with making ingredients to make something using fresh food without having to use any ingredients or mixtures or anything, or pre-made mixtures or anything like that. There are things that you can make without having to do that. And then there's ultra processed food. That is stuff that you actually do not have the capability of making in your house, because you do not have the additives, you don't have the emulsifiers, you don't have the technology to do it. And I love how it breaks that down, so that it makes it easier for people to understand. And the film even goes into maybe not all ultra processed foods are bad. It does kind of touch on the impossible / beyond plant-based burger craze, and where does that land? And they're conflicted about it. They don't really come down one way or the other on it. They just kind of, they're like, yes, it's ultra processed. It may be the better option. And even the guy that's doing the film, that's interviewing, says that he would much rather eat an Impossible Burger than eat a cow. So they seem to not, they don't want to cut those out, but they do acknowledge that that would be ultra processed. So they're even looking at ultra processed as being like, maybe some of it is okay. Maybe like there's like a handful, but they're trying to reduce the amount of ultra processed food that you have in your diet. So, because I was thinking about stuff like almond milk. I was like, I don't know, can you make almond milk? Is that bad for you? Is it, I mean, like, I was getting into the weeds. Like, I feel like I wanted a Q&A with the filmmakers, be like, can I ask some specifics? So, like, oat milk. Like, I have no idea how to make that. Is it even possible for me? So it wouldn't be processed. It's ultra processed. But, like, for people who have weird allergies, like, is oat milk bad? Like, I wanted to have that conversation. I don't know why I wanted to have that conversation in that voice, but I did. Like I'm in line at Starbucks. I like a triple shot latte, please. Yeah. So that's kind of the primary focus of this. The other part is sort of the human aspect of it, the labor that goes into it, and how laborers are mistreated. There's a thing that you learn about food. There's a food certification thing. They call out certain companies for not participating in getting certification that certain farms have for providing at least some sort of bare minimum to migrant workers, or whoever works the field, like literally anybody. But so that way they have, and they, if they're being mistreated, that there's a no retaliatory situation. And they bring up like how Wendy's actually goes out of their way to avoid that, and instead buys tomatoes from Mexico instead of buying them from the United States. And they're like, well, it would make such a huge impact if Wendy's. I'm like, wow, you guys are calling out Wendy's on this. So yeah, it's interesting. You get to see the life of farmers. It talks a lot about how we came out of the pandemic and what food was, and the resources and stuff. It's less about the shock footage that they got in the first film of like watching what happens to the animals. Like that was why Food Inc. And that's why Food Inc. 2 is not getting the traction. Plus, anytime you inherently have a sequel to something, it kind of means, hey, you guys didn't do what I said in the first movie. Sort of like when they had to make an inconvenient sequel. They're like, oh God, we didn't do it, did we? It's like, you just know. It's not, you don't really need to watch the film. You just know. You're like, thanks for the reminder. I still suck as a person. We have not moved the needle on this. I'm just happy there isn't The Cove 2. That was a documentary. I'm glad that we don't have a sequel to, because if I found out we were still doing that in Japan, I'd be like, the fuck? How is this still happening? So yeah. I don't know what I'm missing. So I felt like I got stuff out of it though. So it's very difficult for me to just say unwatchable, because I think you could get stuff out of it. And it also doesn't have audio description, and it could have audio description. It's Food Inc. 2. It's high profile enough, and if you really cared enough, you would make sure that the audio description translates all of the food. Like, I have a feeling there's a part when they're talking about like Wendy's, for example, and they talk about there's like other brands, right? I have a feeling those other brands pop up on screen. I don't know what those other brands are that are not participating in the program because I didn't get an audio description moment for that. So I don't know what those are. I mean, you only vocally call out Wendy's, but what were the other brands? So, um, I feel like if that was in there, I would have had a better, more rounded experience. I would have had more information given to me instead of like half the pamphlet. That's kind of what this feels like. Feels like, if somebody makes a pamphlet for you, but it's like torn in half, and you read the first half and you're like, but this looks like it was torn. Where's the rest of this? Kind of feels like that. It feels like, yeah, I got some stuff and I got some knowledge and I got some valuable knowledge, but I clearly didn't get all of it. Um, Unwatchable is a strong word though, because, and that's usually what I do to films. I tank films that don't have audio description by calling them unwatchable, because they usually are. Here, do I grade the film because my experience was shortchanged due to lack of audio description? Because it certainly can't be an A. I can't be like, Food Inc. 2, A. I feel like I missed stuff, but A. That doesn't make any sense. So, I'll just leave it up to you. I've kind of explained what you would get with Food Inc. 2, and you make up your own mind about it. I would implore the filmmakers behind Food Inc. 2 to go ahead and make audio description for it so that everybody has access to all of your great knowledge about food. Uh, who knows with the streaming service? You know what? I don't want to put it on the streaming services because they're not great about adding audio description, except for maybe Prime to stuff that they don't own. So it's not likely. I've been here before. I saw Max pick up Knox Goes Away, and they did not care. They did not put audio description on that fucking thing. That thing was in theaters. I don't know what happened to the audio description track to that film, but it did not make it to Max. And Max was just like, what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? It's like, that's a premiere for you. That's a new movie. Like, you didn't even... So, do I believe in the responsibility of any of the streaming services to actually find audio description or create audio description? No, I don't. I do not. Said Sam I am. I do not eat ultra processed green eggs and ham. So please just do it. Put it on your own film, and then make sure it gets to wherever it needs to go whenever Food Inc. 2 hits a streaming service. So that's my thought. So you get no grade from me, which might be even worse because it's a nothing burger, which is not quite an Impossible Burger or a Beyond Burger. It's a nothing burger. So, but I think there might be valuable knowledge here for somebody who, if you're thinking about watching it and you want to learn more about and hear more people, and maybe that's what you need to start eating better and eating right. I don't want to stand in your way and say, do not watch this. So, because I think for some people, blind or not, this is going to be a film full of stuff that they need to hear. So, there you go. That's my weird review of Food Inc. 2. Abstain. Is my grade. I've abstained from grading this film. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.